Welcome to this video from the Common Sense Skeptic, which is an excerpt from a longer video published on August 1st, 2022, entitled Debunking Musk 2022 Finale. By request, we have broken this segment out into its own video for people who want to share this information with their friends and family so they can see and understand this material and don't need to scan through that 70-minute video to locate this portion. This was a controversial topic that no one tackled before, and certainly not in this amount of detail, trying to determine whether Musk was being truthful in his very recent claims of having Asperger's syndrome. We joined the 2022 TED Talk with Chris Anderson in Vancouver, BC at this point here.
I want to play, with your permission, this very funny opening from SNL.
I'm actually making history tonight as the first person with Asperger's to host SNL. Or at least the first to admit it.
Now, we're going to be frank, we don't actually believe Musk has been diagnosed with Asperger's. There are articles and conversations online that started debating it right after he made the statement, some saying that explains a lot towards his behavior, and others calling it a fabrication for sympathy. One thing about this is certain. Where Musk is concerned, this was the first time this condition has ever been mentioned out of all the articles written about him, all the interviews he's done, all the childhood stories, biographies, never been mentioned before. Not even by his mother in all of her interviews and the books that she has written. Maybe he's got it, or more likely, maybe he figures people will forgive his sociopathic tendencies by attributing them to this particular diagnosis. We've had people in our own comment sections who were diagnosed as children with Asperger's saying they don't believe his claims either. Here is a small sampling of the comments that people have left, referred to by their username. Dazgib Mecker is an Aspie and believes not only that Musk does not have it, but also that Musk wants to associate himself with famous people who were suspected of having it, like Newton and Einstein. Other famous Aspies include Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, so of course Musk would like to join that club. Michael Burry, a man who has taken a short position against Musk in the stock market, has Asperger's. Thomas Jefferson may have had it, same with Michelangelo. And Carl Sagan, who Musk has misquoted more than once. And all Musk had to do to join this elite group in the minds of his fanboys was say he had it, without any prior mention or proof. Maya Fantasia makes a good point on the same comment, that Musk could possibly have used an Asperger's diagnosis to avoid serving time in the South African military instead of fleeing the country and going to Canada. Sebastian Irala also has Asperger's and dismisses Musk's supposed speech impediment as being a determining factor towards a positive diagnosis, as his own stuttering was easily remedied. Rads is another Aspie, and he doesn't buy the stuttering means Asperger's equivalency either. Alex LFM has a high-functioning ASD diagnosis and thinks Musk is appropriating Asperger's as a way to manipulate people and excuse his negative behavior. Dominique Duda, as another person with autism, calls BS on the claims that Aspies have trouble expressing themselves. And Jay mocks Musk outright, claiming he pretends to have Asperger's and is spewing a horrendous lie. James Kelly has autism, and he is upset that because Musk claims to be part of the community, that people will start to attribute Musk's terrible behavior to other persons with autism. James wants people to know that autistic adults are very respectful and can be very good at communicating with respect, especially in serious situations such as board meetings and testifying in court. His opinion is that Musk is simply a selfish, narcissistic jerk who also happens to be autistic. And for James's peace of mind, we intend to prove that that last concern of his is yet another Musk lie. As we go through this segment, we are going to state this categorically and as plainly as possible. Our observations are going to be strictly directed at Elon Musk and nobody else in the autistic or Asperger's community, especially the dozens of people in our own community who have come forward with their stories and concerns about Musk's claim. As Aspies, we're taking their doubts of his claim, which mirror our own, to take what we know about Musk through a clinical breakdown of what Asperger's is, what indications of it are, and whether or not Musk fits that criteria. One more thing before we get going. Whether or not Musk has Asperger's, he was not the first person to host SNL that had it, nor the first to admit it. Both of those honors belong to Dan Aykroyd, who not only had it, he revealed he had it in an interview in 2013 with the Daily Mail. And there's one other reason why the claim seems to be sketchy before we start, because Musk said this a little later in this same interview.
Yeah, I think one aspect of whatever condition I had was I was just absolutely obsessed with truth.
Compare that to what he said on SNL.
I'm actually making history tonight as the first person with Asperger's to host SNL. Or at least the first to admit it.
Again, we'll play these clips back to back without any commentary in between.
I'm actually making history tonight as the first person with Asperger's to host SNL, or at least the first to admit it.
One aspect of whatever condition I had was I was just absolutely obsessed with truth.
Musk was more than happy to announce on SNL he was an Aspie. Now, in front of a different audience, he's not sure what condition he had, nor is he freely admitting to having it as he was flexing before. Also, he uses the past tense to describe whatever condition he had. Had infers he no longer has it, whatever it is. And we know there is no cure for Asperger's. There are therapies available, but let's go through this from the beginning using easy-to-follow information on the website nationwidechildrens.org, starting with what is Asperger's. Asperger's is a developmental disorder that causes young people to have a difficult time relating to others socially, and their behavior and thinking patterns can be rigid and repetitive. It affects boys 3 to 4 times more often than girls, and in most cases, children are diagnosed between the ages of 5 and 9. Some children have been diagnosed as early as 3 years old. For this reason, as stated here, such a diagnosis should be made by professionals specifically trained for it, and it is normally conducted by pediatricians and child psychologists or psychiatrists. It would be safe to assume, since the diagnosis of Asperger's was absorbed into the ASD spectrum in 2013, that Musk would have been diagnosed as an Aspie while still a child. Yet, every biographer, reporter, relative, and parent failed to mention this condition. Prior to May 9, 2021, there is absolutely no mention of Musk having Asperger's. Since there is no recognized protocol for diagnosing Asperger's in adults, this would be an unlikely new revelation for Musk. However, let's say this discovery was a recent thing. According to the Asperger Autism Network website, many adults with an Asperger's profile stumble upon the description of Asperger's syndrome or autism spectrum. They may read about it or be told by a family member or a friend about the profile, and some may believe that the information matches their history and their current situation, and as a result, may self-diagnose. And a betting man would say that's exactly what happened with Musk. He has self-diagnosed himself to accommodate and disguise his sociopathic and narcissistic behaviors. And if Musk can self-diagnose, then we can certainly offer a second opinion. Let's see what the traits of an Asperger patient look like based on this chart of Aspie's strengths, and see if Musk made the right conclusion about himself, starting with intelligence, special interest, and memory. Average to very high intelligence. Musk is credited with high intelligence in the media, but do any amount of digging and you'll find out they're relying on IQ tests from when he was still in elementary school. There are certainly no recent testing results that would confirm this, but there are plenty of instances where his intelligence is easily put into question. The fact that he is still promoting his original Hyperloop white paper, which was plagiarized from 100-year-old patents, and the colonization of Mars would indicate the genius label is undeserved. Good verbal skills, rich vocabulary. Notice they don't mention stuttering here. Musk has a reasonable vocabulary, but we would argue that he doesn't have great communication skills, or speaking skills, and he tends to use words and phrases without understanding the full meaning of them, as we have gone through before. This is a tactic often used by Musk to confuse or impress the person interviewing him, to baffle him with bullshit response rather than explaining things in clear and precise terms. Ability to absorb and retain large amounts of information, especially about topics of special interest. To be fair, he probably qualifies on this one, but this makes him a sponge for the topic rather than an authority on it, as the information has to come from other sources. Ability to think in visual images. No clue either way if Musk does or doesn't think visually. One way to tell this might be if Musk draws diagrams during board meetings to illustrate what he is talking about, but as we already found out,
I don't really attend the SpaceX board meetings. We only have 2 a year, and I just stop by and chat for an hour.
Be self-motivated, independent learners. Well, Musk seems to think he knows everything already, as he told us earlier about his manufacturing prowess. If he thinks he knows more about manufacturing than anybody else in the world, that would indicate to a reasonable person that the opposite is true, and that Musk is no longer seeking additional input from anyone. Propensity to think outside the box and generate novel solutions to problems. Musk, on the other hand, creates novel problems that then require his solution, which is normally half-baked. AI would be a great example here, making people afraid of AI, then creating it so that you need to buy his brain chip to get assimilated. Another example would be encouraging the transition to electric-powered cars that still run mainly on coal and natural gas-generated electricity, pretending this is somehow a solution for sustainable energy. Meanwhile, the solar energy arm of Tesla Energy, formerly Solar City, has shriveled and died. Some people may show a strong aptitude for a particular field of study or topic. Well, Musk fancies himself an engineer, but he has no credentials to match that field of study. Musk has never taken an engineering course or exam. He just likes it when people call him an engineer, almost as much as he enjoys telling people that fiction himself. The next set of points have to do with strong focus. Ability, in some cases a preference, for spending time alone. Musk has declared in past interviews he has a deathly fear of being alone. In 2017, he admitted this during an interview with Rolling Stone, the interviewer Neil Strauss identifying Musk as having textbook codependence issues. Musk made several declarations. I will never be happy without having someone. Going to sleep alone kills me. I never want to be alone. I don't want to be alone. And the entire time, he was bordering on breaking out in tears. Safe to say Musk fails this criteria. Take an interest in arcane or offbeat fields of knowledge. We're going to touch on this a little later, where Musk makes several lofty claims in this regard which are easily disproven. Concentrate for long periods of time on reading, experimenting, writing. The mainstream media would have you believe Musk spends 20 hours a day poring over technical journals, drawing up blueprints of cities on Mars, writing his manifesto for the future that will unite all of humanity. In reality, his days are pretty much spent doing interviews, responding to lawsuits, and tweeting from the shitter. Avoid wasting time in some activities that appeal to neurotypical people. Again, Musk spends a great deal of time on Twitter. He also spends a lot of time playing a wide variety of favorite video games, the same as any other typical neurotypical person. Both activities could be reasonably described as wasting time. Some special interests can be channeled into productive hobbies or even careers where the person may be creative or make new discoveries. On this point, the mainstream media again plays a role in broadcasting the unsupported mythos of Musk. He is not a scientist, he is not a physicist, he is not an engineer, he is not a great inventor, he is not a problem solver, he is not a paradigm shifter. The concepts he promotes, pretending they are his own, are often recycled from science fiction storylines or in some cases plagiarized from old patents or scientific papers. Things as simple as the solar roof tile. That was patented by NASA in 1976. The Neuralink BMI Musk claims creation of was stolen straight out of a Duke University patent through a lab assistant working on that very project for both parties. So Musk's ability to think creatively is limited by the work others have already done or movies he has watched. In our opinion, he is incapable of manifesting his own unique creative thoughts. And yes, that even includes Starship. Moving to the points about being detail-oriented. Ability to notice small details of an idea, theory, number pattern, book, film, object, or visual image. It would be hard to imagine Musk being able to notice small details in an idea or a theory, considering he can't identify gigantic gaps in the concepts he presents as his own. Let's take the fact that Starship is not physically big enough to carry 100 people, their provisions, and supplies off-world. The fact that in this diagram there is no way to change lanes. The fact that open brain surgery is a life-threatening procedure. If he can't identify those problems, noticing an error in a Fibonacci sequence seems beyond his capacity. Ability to perform repetitive tasks where accuracy, rules, and routine are important. We also read this as the ability to properly follow something through to completion on a regular basis, something like building a piece of IKEA furniture over and over again. Again, this is not what Musk does. Musk would be the opposite, unable to focus on the same thing for a long period of time. How many products has he unveiled without producing the products he unveiled 5 years ago? Strong work ethic, commitment to quality, and accuracy of work. The fact that the cars his factories produce, on assembly lines he takes sole credit for creating and refining after living in excruciating imagined pain for 3 years, are among the worst cars on the road year after year, would infer Musk also fails this qualification. Musk will claim to have a very strong work ethic, but available evidence does not back this up. Moving into unique humor. Play with language and create puns. Well, seriously, if it was not for the numbers 69 and 420, Musk would have nothing funny to post. Truth be told, Musk is not at all creative in his humor, preferring to steal other people's humorous memes without credit. Although Musk declares he thinks he's funny. This is part of his sworn testimony on the Solar City bailout trial. One thing is for certain, he uses the excuse of humor for some of his actions. Declaring himself the official techno-king at Tesla would be a great example here. Enjoys sarcasm and satire. Musk enjoys sarcasm? Definitely not if it's about him. He does have a mean, sarcastic streak on social media, though, and it's gotten him into trouble more than once. Relish life's absurd, dark, or incongruous side. No comment here really, one way or the other. If he was still with Grimes, might be a different story, because she certainly qualifies as absurd and incongruous. See through empty rhetoric or conventional pieties. Now, whether or not he sees through empty rhetoric is up for debate, but the fact that he has built his companies on this very foundation of sand should speak volumes here. Empty rhetoric, by definition, is synonymous with hollow promise, words uttered without any attempt to make the action necessary to back them up. In fact, given the number of fake promises Musk has made and continues to make, Empty Rhetoric would be the perfect title for his next biography. Next up is honesty, and if he was going off the rails before, this section crushes him. Ability and tendency to tell the truth, even if it is not tactful or in one's self-interest. In this one, Musk fails miserably. To quote Meghan Trainor, "If you think that's an exaggeration, please, by all means, tell the whole class the last truthful thing you remember Musk saying. Here's what it wasn't about. It wouldn't have been about Starship, or Mars, or FSD, or any other topic covered during this TED Talk, and we've run the gamut of all his companies. So again, when was the last time Elon Musk told the truth? Desire and tendency to follow rules. Again, abject failure in this regard. Musk thinks rules don't apply to him. Whether we're talking about insider trading, or self-enrichment, or the laws of physics, Elon Musk lives in his own little bubble. And that bubble is shrinking around him at an alarming rate because he continues to act with self-assured impunity. He openly flaunts his disdain of authority. He refuses to honor legal agreements that he signed. In short, Musk thinks he only has to answer to himself. And when his awakening eventually comes, it's going to hit Musk and his mythos hard. Next up is desire to connect. Expend effort and energy to learn social skills that do not come naturally. It's hard to believe Musk would put any effort into such an endeavor. He would just automatically figure he can do no wrong, and then expect others to kowtow to him. Not unlike when he told his first wife, Justine, while dancing during their wedding reception, that he was the alpha in their relationship.
I am the king!
Any man who must say, I am the king, is no true king.
Persevere in the face of rejection, confusion, or frustration. While we all know how well Musk handles frustration, take a look at what happened last fall when the VP of Raptor development quit. Musk's first response was to call everybody back off of their Thanksgiving holiday long weekend to work out a crisis in the Raptor assembly line. Wonder how well that worked out. Musk doesn't persevere, he panics. Believe the best of everyone, sometimes naively. Do we even need to say anything at this point? The only time Musk mentions another person is when he's putting them down. He did it during this interview about Martin Eberhard, a man with whom he has a non-disparagement agreement in writing and the man who created the very automotive platform that Musk is given credit for. Musk has seriously called him the worst person on several occasions, without provocation, just as he did here. It's a complete mystery why Eberhard is not suing Musk's ass off as we speak. Accept quirkiness or imperfection in others and become a loyal friend. This is a very simple point to refute. Musk has no friends. He has ex-wives, he has baby mamas, he has business associates, he has the sycophants he has surrounded himself with. But when have you ever seen him out on a town with someone that would qualify as a friend? As for loyalty, his true colors regarding friendship came out during the Solar City trial when it came to a man named Antonio Gracias. When Musk was questioned about his friendship with Gracias, Musk downplayed the relationship under oath, contradicting Gracias' testimony that the two of them were in fact good friends. Such good friends that Musk gave Gracias the second Tesla Roadster off the production line, even though Musk had signed a contract with Martin Eberhard that the car was going to be his. In fact, Eberhard, as the car's designer, was supposed to get the first one off the line, but Musk decided to keep that one for himself. This is all noted in legal filings because the car Eberhard eventually got was in a wreck before it ever left the factory site and had to be rebuilt, without the upgrades promised to him. But going back to the main point here, there seems to be no indication Musk is any more loyal to his friends, if he has any, than he was to any of his ex-wives or sex partners. And wouldn't you know it, just as we thought we were going to be able to wrap this episode up, this story broke on the Wall Street Journal, announcing to the world that the reason why Sergey Brin, co-founder of Google, and his wife Nicole Shanahan filed for divorce in January of 2022 was because In what can only be described as a total loss of her senses, Nicole had an affair with Musk in December of 2021 during the Art Basel event in Miami. Although, if we're being honest, we prefer the way this scandal was announced in the New York Post, for obvious reasons. Musk has been protesting this story and crying the blues on Twitter, but the points in this article on Yahoo seem to be fairly detailed, right up to where Musk dropped to his knees in front of witnesses and begged for forgiveness. Where did we hear something like that before? Musk on his knees. Seems there's a pattern in there somewhere. The Yahoo article also reminded us how Brin, a former friend to Musk, helped keep Tesla afloat during the 2008 financial crisis and often allowed Musk to couch surf at Brin's Silicon Valley home, which in hindsight looks to have been a huge mistake. According to the article, their friendship is no more, as you would expect from such a betrayal, and Brin ordered his financial advisors to sell off his personal investments in Musk companies. Given the level of detail in these articles, it all certainly seems more credible than Musk's denial. And the Wall Street Journal just released another article declaring they are standing by their reporting. At any rate, the story is still fresh, and there's probably more news to come, but at this point, here's what we know for sure. Brin and Shanahan filed for divorce in January of 2022, citing irreconcilable differences after less than 4 years and having a daughter together, and so far Musk is the only person accused of being involved in this affair who is denying it happened. Prior to this recording, Brin has made no public statement, and neither has Shanahan. Now, if you were the woman falsely accused by the Wall Street Journal, the New York Post, and Yahoo of destroying your marriage because you had to get yourself some of this, while you are still negotiating your divorce terms where you are looking for $1 billion from the spouse you supposedly cheated on, wouldn't you be suing everybody under the sun for reporting such a lie, considering Shanahan is a lawyer? As Stanfield Capital put it so perfectly on Twitter as the story broke, Musk claims he never slept with Brin's wife and that he and Brin are good friends. If both of these things are true, then Brin will make a public statement to that effect. If he doesn't, that's all you need to know. The last bubble on the chart has to do with Aspies being fair and just. Tendency to be unconventional, open-minded, and tolerant. No. He is one of the most closed-minded, intolerant people in the public sphere. It is Musk's way or the highway. And when you rage-fire employees on the spot for disagreeing with you, that is not conveying open-mindedness or tolerance. Intensely responsive when made aware of injustice. Musk's response, when presented with such a situation, is to turn a blind eye. And that is why his companies are constantly being sued for racial and sexual discrimination and harassment. Advocate for the underdog, victims of bullying, or members of an oppressed group. You're kidding, right? His employees who wanted to unionize were fired, and those who stayed behind were threatened on Twitter with losing their stock options if they went to a vote. Tesla and SpaceX are apparently sanctuaries for people who are racist and sexist, and they make life miserable for the other people working beside them. Propensity to express caring in non-traditional ways. Musk is often seen in the public sphere making promises to help people in need, particularly when the crisis in question makes the news cycle, but he is never seen making good on those promises. Tendency to relate to and defend animals. 2 words: Neuralink monkeys. 2 more: Neuralink pigs. 2 more: Neuralink sheep. You hardly ever hear about the sheep at Neuralink though, probably because they are all dead after failed procedures to implant 10,000 electrodes into their brain in a single surgical procedure. Neuralink has also implanted devices into the brains of rats. These animals are tortured, in some cases tortured to death. And for what? The device Musk is pumping will not do what he claims. So all these animals are being terribly abused and mutilated for nothing. It would be bad enough if there was some eventual outcome that resulted in a medical breakthrough, but the fact that this device's advertised abilities are out-and-out lies makes this even more despicable. No, Musk does not relate to or defend animals. And that wraps up the strengths chart for Aspies. Moving into treatment for Asperger's, let's start off by restating the fact that there is no cure for Asperger's. And treatment per individual is a matter of finding the right combination of the following: social skills training, behavior supports, cognitive behavioral therapy, parent education and training, speech-language therapy, occupational therapy, special education classes, and medication. Again, relying on the Musk historical documents, nobody mentions Musk going through any of these special classes or therapy or training. And when it comes to the medications used to treat Asperger's, the top ones mentioned are Risperdal, the generic version Risperidone, Lisdexamfetamine, and Olanzapine. You'll notice that none of these meds are compatible with alcohol, meaning they wouldn't be very conducive to Musk's current lifestyle, especially when he wants to make a little magic with red wine and Ambien. Perhaps a chemist can let us know in the comments what would happen if you introduced Risperdal into a red wine Ambien roofie. In conclusion, he is probably not taking meds for his declared condition. No one has mentioned any aspect of therapy in this regard at any point of his life, including the present. So the logical conclusion here is he is not seeking treatment for Asperger's. So to all the people who are giving us grief about not believing Musk's claim about being an Aspie, there's no longer any doubt. There's no chance of it. You take the fact that he hardly matches any of the personality chart, combine it with the lack of meds or therapy required to treat it, and this conclusion is unavoidable. If you still think Musk has Asperger's, save your breath. As far as we are concerned, this point is settled. Wrapping up this portion, we would actually like to thank the Aspies in our community for encouraging us to do this segment, because we learned a lot about the syndrome as a result. And one of the biggest things we learned, given their propensities to possess above average intelligence with ingrained senses of right and wrong and a tendency to be more truthful than most, with a soft spot for animals and underdogs, what we learned is that everybody could use a couple more Aspies in their life. And for James Kelly specifically, you no longer have to worry about Musk embarrassing you by association. The two of you have nothing in common. As we mentioned at the beginning of this video, it is an excerpt of a longer production, which details how this claim works into other facets of claims that Musk makes, such as his understanding the truth of the universe through studying physics, and his reading of religious and philosophy text. You can and should check out the full-length production now that you understand why this assessment is so important, and you can do so by clicking this link here.